Hello, and good morning. I'm Jimmy Mcarthur, the Senior Manager of Business Development for the OpenInfra Foundation. I've been at the Foundation for 7 years, and in the last 2 years, I've transitioned to business development as we moved from the OpenStack Foundation to the OpenInfra Foundation. So this morning, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the OpenInfra Foundation and how we do open source and what we see as the landscape in the next few years. I would like to take a moment to thank Sung Soo for all the hard work that he's done with the OpenInfra Korea, with the OpenInfra Korea user group, and also all of the organizers and our sponsors of this event. Thank you very much. So the Open Infrastructure Foundation moved from the OpenStack Foundation at the beginning of 2021. And the reason we did that is we saw an opportunity to expand the scope of what we were doing beyond just OpenStack. We already had a couple of projects, Kata Containers and Zool as well. But there was a need for organizations to bring projects to us that were doing things the way we do them and the way that we manage open source. But before I get into all that, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what's been going on in the community. Most recently in June, we had our Berlin Summit. Those recordings are live. It was amazing to be back in person again. Just like this, it's energizing and it's great to get in touch with your community. We had some amazing sessions. Our keynotes and presentations are all available at this URL that's on the screen. Additionally, we had our Super User Awards, Ant Group and OVH Cloud for the very first time. We had 2 winners. And Super User Awards are something that we give out for organizations that go above and beyond in our community. Ant Group, in particular, is working on Kata Containers, and I'll get into that in just a minute. And OVH Cloud is one of the largest public clouds in the world, running OpenStack, and both of those groups have contributed to the community and given back in ways that are incalculable for us. Speaking of Ant Group and Kata Containers, Ant Group just released a white paper. If you're interested in Kata Containers, which is a container security project, the best practices and how to get involved in the project are here, and thanks to Ant Group for putting that together. And I mentioned Zool and Kata Containers. Kata is having this year its 5-year anniversary, and Zool its 10-year anniversary. And these are projects that we fostered from the beginning, and we've nurtured as a foundation, and we've nurtured the community, and they've come a long way. Zool, which was originally created to manage OpenStack and manage the many different repositories and all the complexities that entails for the OpenStack project, was spun off into its own thing. And it is one of the most successful continuous integration projects in existence. Nothing really works like it. If you have multiple repositories doing complex things together and you want to do it all without releasing any broken code, take a look at Zool. Volvo and BMW are just 2 of the case studies that we've seen that are using it in complex manufacturing situations where many teams across many departments need to all work together and commit code together into one piece of software. And Starling X is another project we've got. It's a combination of a lightweight version of OpenStack and Kubernetes, and it's used at the edge. It's driven by Wind River. It's adopted by Fujitsu and NEC, 99 Cloud, and all the companies that you see up here. Styling X is our edge solution. I think it's worth a look, and if you're interested in it, come catch me afterwards, and I would be happy to talk to you about it. And finally, join us in Vancouver. Next year, we'll have our next summit. Vancouver is a community favorite. We all love Vancouver. So get your tickets now. They're available. If you're interested in sponsorship, I'm your guy for that. You could talk to me. All right, that's the high level of what's been going on. So now I'd like to talk to you about the OpenInfra Foundation and our way of doing open source and what we see coming up in the coming years. I'm going to start out with a quote. The quote is, 95% of the world's IT spend is on premises and not in the cloud. So the question is, when was it said? Any ideas? Maybe 5 years ago? 3 years ago? It was just this year. And that's Andy Jassy, the Amazon CEO. And what he's saying is pretty remarkable, right? This is Amazon. They know cloud. They know what they're talking about. And let's break down what that means, that 95% growth. The current global IT spend is $3.6 trillion US dollars. And 5% of that, what's being spent today, is 180 billion US. So what does that mean for us, for people sitting in this room? That means that the cloud market is set to grow by 20 times in the coming years. That's a lot of growth. That's a lot of potential. And here in South Korea, we see the same thing. This year, the South Korean market is 5.68 billion, the cloud market. In 2025, it's projected to be up to 124 billion. So maybe Andy Jassy knows what he's talking about. And the share of the cloud market, as one would expect, Amazon is on top, 33%. But the question is, who's this? Who's the 27%? And the 27% is other. One would expect maybe Azure or Alibaba, but no, it's other. So who is other? That's us. OpenStack is other. We are other. If you're running open source public cloud, you're other. In 2021, OpenStack saw growth of 180 plus public cloud data centers, right? That's the latest count in 2021. That's a lot of data centers. It's a bigger footprint than Amazon. It's a bigger footprint than Google. It's a bigger footprint than Alibaba. And it's global. And as of this last OpenStack user survey, we've now counted up to 300 plus OpenStack powered public cloud data centers. And to be clear, these are ones that we know about, and we find out about more every year. But look for the OpenStack user survey in November, and you can learn more about the growth of OpenStack powered public cloud. Now, it's not just public cloud, right? We were talking about on-prem earlier, and we're seeing private and public cloud growth all across all of these sectors, right? These verticals, I'm sure you're familiar with. I'm sure you've seen names on here that you recognize, Walmart and Nike and Nipa Cloud and Salesforce and on, right? And they're running 40 plus million CPU cores of OpenStack. That's pretty incredible. And sort of talking along those lines and looking at the growth of OpenStack and open infrastructure, you can see the growth in APAC alone. This is the ecosystem. These are members of the foundation. And these organizations commit resources, they commit time, developers, money, and promotion, all so that because they believe in the idea of open infrastructure and open source and OpenStack. And many thanks to our OpenInfra Foundation members here in Korea, DevStack, NHN Cloud, Orchestro, and Samsung. Thank you very much. If you'd like to join this list, I'll be around after this keynote, so please find me in the hallway somewhere. But the question is, how are we doing all this, right? Collaboration is a word that is often used, maybe too often, but it's what we believe in at the Open Infrastructure Foundation. We believe that collaboration works, and many organizations writing software together works. Why does it work? So let's take a look. Proprietary development, that's a pretty common use case. An organization sees an opportunity, they have an idea, they invest a lot of money in building out that software, and they get a return on their investment. That's proprietary development. Single vendor open source development, that's when one company builds software and they open source it, and they get a return on the investment, and they build some proprietary technology on top of that, but they don't get all the return on it because it's still open source and some other people are using it and building businesses around it, which is good. But what we believe in at the Open Infra Foundation is open development. Many companies working together, many companies putting a small investment in for a larger return and a larger piece of that return. These organizations working together, these are our members, all of them believe in this idea of open development. And that's open from the beginning and open to the end. Just this last 18 months, we've seen a 33% growth in Open Infra Foundation members. And we're very thankful to have that, but I think it speaks to the idea that these organizations are seeing something in our foundation and seeing something in the way that we do open source. Collaboration across organizations works. And collaboration across countries works. You can see it here today, right? We're all here. I'm here. Thank you for letting me be here. And how does it work? We believe in something at the Open Infra Foundation called the 4 opens. It's open source, it's open design, open community, and open development. And what does that mean? That means everything we do is in the open, from our code to our finances to the way we run the community to the way we allow open governance. We allow projects to work in the open and work in a way that fosters a healthy open source community and a healthy open source ecosystem. And back in 2013, our executive director, Jonathan Bryce, came up with a concept called the 3 forces. And that's users and ecosystem and developers. So a lot of people think, right, I've got developers, we've got great source code, let's throw it out there, and that should be enough. If we write great code, then why wouldn't people use our project? But what we believe at the Open Infra Foundation is that a healthy open source community is run on these 3 forces. Without the users to consume the code that you're putting out and consume the services that you're putting out, and without an ecosystem to hire developers to produce the code, then you don't have a healthy community. These 3 things feed each other, like a circle of life sort of thing for open source. Sorry. And so with OpenStack, let's take a look at that in practice. OpenStack has over 450 organizations that have committed, that are working in the ecosystem, that are building their businesses off of OpenStack. 8,500 developers have contributed to OpenStack over the years. And our user force, I mentioned 40 million cores. We've got 40 million users out there, or excuse me, 40 million cores with thousands of users. And our developer force, how are we doing that? We have something called a project teams gathering, which I think is unique amongst open source projects, where we give space to projects to do work. That's all. They get together and they plan the next release. It's not a sales event. There's no booths. It's just rooms where developers can get the work done. And those project team gatherings include not just OpenStack, but other projects like Kata Containers and Starling X, and also adjacent communities like Ceph and Magma, which is a Linux Foundation project. These are all welcome at our project teams gatherings. And then onboarding and mentoring. This is something that Song Soo talked about. He's working hard to bring mentees on to help understand how to contribute to open source projects in a healthy way. Release management and infrastructure support is also something that we do at the foundation. And infrastructure support is exactly how we came about the Zool project. In the user force, we do something else that I think is a bit unique. We have what we call our forum. And if you come to one of our summits and you're a user of our software, you can come and tell us everything that you think is wrong about the software, or maybe everything you think is right. But all of that information is fed back to our developers and back to our project teams. And we do that through our SIGs, like the large sales SIG, and our community events and industry events, which help boost our users. And then finally, the ecosystem force, right? These are the companies that are making money off this software. These are the companies that are building their brand off the software. We have trademark programs that help them differentiate themselves in the marketplace, and an interop working group which ensures that there's a consistent user experience when companies are betting their cloud on something like OpenStack. Pooling resources from multiple companies to innovate together. That's what we believe in. Whoa, and I lost it. Well, okay. That's the end. Thank you very much, and we are open for business, and we're open to collaborate. So if you want to find me after this, please do so. I'll be around all day, and thank you very much again for the honor.